All right, we should be recording now and live. So hope you guys watching are having a great day so far. So you can see a special guest here. We have Laura, one of my one-on-one clients, and I'm really excited to talk more about her journey. And a fun fact with this too is tomorrow will be like officially 1 year since you got started with coaching, which is crazy that it's been, 365 days, 1 full year since your like official day one into coaching. But Laura's journey has been awesome. She's down roughly, give or take, like 18, 19-ish pounds, depending on the day, from like what your heaviest weight was in that priming phase, which, we'll talk about like the phases that we did with your journey too. But I'm just excited to share your journey and for you to talk about, your experience. And yeah, so Laura, go ahead and just introduce yourself a little bit, tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what you do for work, what does your family or home life look like, just a little bit about you, anything that you feel like, is important to know.
Well, hi, I'm Laura. I am 52 years old. I always have to do the math. I think I'll be 53 in September. I currently live in St. Petersburg, Florida. I am the manager of nurse case management at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. I don't know if I'm allowed to put all that out there, but there it is. I live at home with my husband, 2 dogs, and a cat. I have 3 children who are all grown and out on their own. I started a weight loss journey long, long ago, doing other things and trying other methods. And one of the methods I was on worked for me for a while, but I think I became too complacent in that and really didn't. It was a good way to eat, but it wasn't a good way to live. And so it wasn't like I had a whole bunch of healthy habits or did a whole bunch of things to make myself healthy. I just didn't eat much and kind of kept my calories low, my fat low, to help keep the weight off. And again, that worked for many years. But as I got older and things changed, and obviously my body started to slow down, maintaining that was not what I would consider doable anymore. I was always tired, never really had energy to do anything, didn't want to go and do anything. And then the weight started to come on. And as the weight came on, I decided to try the easy way out and do some of the GLP-1s. And I did that for a little bit. And honestly, I just felt miserable. I really had no energy. It didn't feel good all the time. Food tasted terribly. And it was something that we enjoyed doing. It's like going out and trying all the local flavors, and just really never had any interest to do that either. And that led me to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was the GLP-1s the method that you were referring to where like, yeah, you saw weight loss, but it didn't feel like a sustainable way to eat long term?
The second time. So the very first time, I was in my early 30s. And I did do a weight program, which was, again, all food. And I did that for a good 15 years. And I kept off the 100 pounds that I had gained previous to that. But then into my later 40s, like even still doing that, it just wasn't working anymore. And I slowly started to gain the weight over the next 4 or 5 years. It got just to the point where I didn't even do it anymore. And I had just stopped because that original program didn't work for me. And again, it was just food. It was not walking and exercising and making myself feel better physically. It was just managing what I was putting in my body. And then when that didn't work for me anymore, and I had gained quite a bit of weight, I didn't gain the 100 pounds back, thank goodness, but I gained quite a bit of weight back. I did do the GLP-1, and I lost about 20 pounds on that in 6 months, which was a nice little start. But again, It was just absolutely miserable.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask, like you mentioned it was miserable, and I know you mentioned about just kind of practically it wasn't great for you because you wanted to be able to like go out to dinner here and there and try this local food, and you didn't really want to do all that, so you were kind of missing out on that enjoyment piece. And I believe you said that your husband, you guys like to do that together, and you were kind of missing out on that. Any other reasons as to why like the GLP-1 you felt like you just didn't enjoy being on, even though you were seeing some weight loss? Like I know a lot of people will report just feeling really nauseous when they eat bigger meals or when they try to eat in general, or was it all just like, hey, I felt like I wasn't able to live the way I wanted to live in that regard?
It was a combination of things. So besides the fact, it just made me super tired. I didn't have any energy at all. I don't know if it's because I lack the gallbladder or what have you not, but whenever the dose would change, I would get severe pain across my chest and down my back. And for like the first couple of days after changing a dose, it just felt like someone was sitting on me all the time. And it was a really sharp, dull ache, which is really weird to say, sharp and dull at the same time, but it wouldn't go away. Nothing helped relieve it. So it physically made me feel bad. And I never really get nauseous, but I would never get hungry. during that time, we went to Portugal for our 20th wedding anniversary, and, just to be able to experience a new culture and everything, but everything tasted the same. Like, even though certain things I could tell tasted better than others, nothing had great flavor. And I know that's not the food. I knew it was everything to do with the GLP-1.
Hmm. Yeah. Which is why, like, it's really like the GLP-1s, some people will be totally against that and some people will be like all for that. And I'm on a case by case basis, like in the middle. If you're somebody who has a lot of weight to lose and you're dealing with really immediate health issues because you can't, stay consistent with anything or lose weight or whatever it may be, like, yeah, it can assist you to like get things going by just making you not want to eat, right? And then
Mhm.
lose weight that way. But once you get to a point where you are at a healthy body weight or closer to that, and especially if you find, okay, you're dealing with all these negative symptoms from taking it and you're not able to live your life the way you want to, and share those food experiences, when you go travel or with your husband along with it, now it's kind of infringing on your quality of life in that regard. And now you have to think, okay, maybe it's not really worth it for me to take those things. And like the long-term side effects of, those things are kind of a little bit unknown to this point.
Okay.
So you always have to think about that as well. But it sounds like for you, the cons definitely outweighed the pros of taking it, and you wanted a way to be able to lose the weight and feel better without having to, rely on that. I'm sure the fact that you don't have to inject yourself now probably
Yes,
feels great.
it's very true.
Yeah. So when you stopped taking it, did you see any kind of like weight rebound or weight gain back, or did you kind of maintain where you were? And then obviously, we started working together and we've made progress since then.
So I found you before I stopped taking it completely. And I had slowly weaned myself back off of it because I didn't want to just cold turkey. The medication said, again, I didn't know what it was going to do. So I was in a slow wean process when I started with you. And I think I probably had one or two more doses after you and I started together. So I did go up a little bit of weight, but I also went from eating nothing to finally having real food again, which was nice.
Hmm.
And to be able to go up that much in calories there at the beginning and still only gain a couple of pounds was amazing. So, just the whole process obviously works. But so I didn't see that probably the rebound that maybe other people would get if they just quit it cold turkey
Yeah,
and didn't
for
have
sure.
anything else to fall back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the timing worked out really well with you kind of, like you said, tapering off of it, which is how, if you're ever trying to like get off of a GLP-1, that's the way to do it, is to slowly go down. That way, all of that hunger doesn't just all of a sudden just bombard you at once you stop taking it. But also, it was perfect timing because we were starting that priming phase, the first phase where, we brought your calories up to the high end of your approximate maintenance. And we were working on increasing your calories as that hunger was probably like starting to slowly come back too. But you had the support and the accountability through coaching to like stick to the actual calorie range that we gave you each week versus, if you were doing this on your own or not tracking your food, it would be like, I'm hungry. So now I'm just going to like go even overboard and like way over eat calories and gain weight. And yeah, in that priming phase, I mean, you gain like 1 to 2 pounds on average, but from your progress pictures, even in that priming phase, I mean, it looked like you lost 10 pounds, even though you gained a couple of pounds,
Yeah.
which goes to show that like the weight and the scale is really just like one clue as far as how progress is happening, but it's not the end all be all. And there are circumstances that happen, especially in the very beginning with coaching, that are really common where the weight on the scale either doesn't move and your body composition changes a ton still, or maybe it goes up by 1 or 2 pounds and it still changes a ton, which was, the circumstance, the situation that you were in.
Mhm.
Backtracking a little bit,
Okay.
how did you find out about coaching? I know, but like tell everyone how you found about coaching, like how we got connected, like what
Mhm.
made you even like reach out to me, like how that process went.
So I saw Nick. Can I mention her name?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So I used to work with Nicole way back when I was still in Ohio. And I had noticed, I'd seen her when she started her progress or her training with you. And I didn't think much about it at first. She was going to the gym and weights. And to me, that was just blah, to be honest. But then a year later, I saw her progress and her before and after pictures. And I was like, okay, she's doing this. She has 3 young children at home. I don't know what else is going on with her, but I know that she's very busy and she's still managing to find the time and she feels good. And she's talking about how she feels well and, posting it about it. And then I started seeing more of the people I used to work with at Nationwide Children's Hospital posting and how they've joined in and how they're doing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to look into this. And so that's kind of how I came to find you. And then I did a little bit of research and talked to my husband and I was like, this has got to be better. And then I reached out to you just to get more information and then realized that being with you and changing my entire life and getting into a healthy lifestyle and exercising and doing the good things cost just as much as being on the GLP-1, which made me feel miserable. And so we decided that I was going to go ahead and reach out to you and talk to you and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always love when clients come from like current or previous clients and they're them sharing their journey. And I think a lot of times that's how it happens where, it's, you see like a random transformation picture online and it's really easy to mentally think, oh, like this is just not an actual real person, could be photoshopped or whatever it might be. But when you see somebody that especially when like Nicole, I know she had done one of these like video interviews with me too and shared her experience and you're like, oh, this is a real person. I know them. They're actually talking about their experience. Like it really does, just hit home a little bit more of like, oh, this is something I really can succeed with. Were you like nervous to get started or skeptical maybe from like the different people you heard talk about it? You were like, oh, I know this is going to work as long as I put in the work? Or like, were you kind of worried about like, is this just going to be another kind of diet or something I try and just doesn't really work for me?
I think I was more nervous, not because I was afraid the process wasn't going to work, but I was more nervous about the fact that I know I'm lazy. I know when I get home from work, because I run all day long, I'm very busy. So when I get home from work, I want to sit on my couch and I don't want to move. I'm not a morning person, so getting me up early before work is not going to happen. So that is the part of me that I was really nervous about. I was super anxious that I was not going to follow through with what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
because I know.
Right. And I think that's probably where most people's fear comes with, honestly. Like I get on countless calls with people who are interested in coaching or just messages through the DMs of people who like, hey, like, I'd love more info about coaching. And I think most people don't have the introspection to admit that that's why they're afraid. Usually it's they state, okay, like, financially it's a scary investment or whatever it may be, or like, or maybe they say, I don't know if I have the time, quote unquote, or maybe it's they don't know if like this will actually like the process will actually work for them. But I think deep down, like the thing that makes people not commit to coaching or something like this is that fear of just them actually following through. And what's funny and ironic, I guess, is like committing to something like this is that like missing link that actually gets you to follow through and gets you to overcome, that the fear that actually is holding you back when you're not investing. So it's a thing that like people run from. They run from investing in coaching and jumping in and doing something like this when that's like the thing that actually will like get them to execute and do what they need to do and be consistent with it. And I mean, I think you're good proof of that, of you admitting that you're lazy, but like you still obviously have seen awesome, results up to this point. So I know we talked a little bit about like the first phase of the priming phase and us building your calories up. Was that pretty surprising to you that we did that? And like, what were the thoughts and everything you were having throughout that process? Like in the beginning, the middle, and then even the end of the priming phase when, maybe you saw those progress pictures actually together too.
Yeah, it was definitely a shocker because I had spent, like I said, 15 years on this other program where my calories were under 1,200 calories a day and fat was non-existent, so very low fat, very low calories, so a lot of carbs. And so then to be able to consume it, but again, it didn't break things down either. So it wasn't about making sure you had enough protein or that you moved enough or did anything enough. So being able to increase the calories and significantly. So it wasn't just a couple hundred calories. This was almost 1,000 calories difference from the beginning of the framing to the end of it. That was huge. I mean, that's a lot of calories. But then to realize that the different types of foods, eating the more protein, having a little bit of fat, I started to notice some of the changes pretty quickly. Like that energy level was up. I've noticed that my hair has gotten thicker, which is a nice plus because it was getting really thin. And then just being able, so that was kind of nice. And I was moving more, but it wasn't like I went from 0 to 100 right away. It was a nice gradual increase in the movement, and all of those pieces together it was nice. It was nice not to feel like I was starving all the time. And nice to know that if I'm going to go out to dinner and try something, then that's not going to completely unravel everything I've done for the last week, 2 weeks or whatever. So it was shocking. It was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like I mentioned before, just to see those progress pictures side by side after us increasing calories so much and after the weight on the scale going up by like 1 to 2 pounds on average was pretty insane to see, of just like how much muscle you built, but then fat you also lost at the same time, that helped, that to happen. And a lot of people don't realize just how much food they can consistently if they are tracking it accurately and building it up, slowly over that priming phase of letting your metabolism and your digestive system kind of adjust to the higher calories, as we do that. And then, like I said before, like you said, ramping up your activity and your daily steps. Like I think we started initially at just like 6,000 steps per day and slowly kind of ramped up to like 8,000 on average before we started the fat loss phase. And just like that slow implementation of like, the steps, slowly building those calories up, establishing the habits we need nutrition wise, and then getting used to just lifting consistently, just 3 days a week too. It's not like we're doing, 6 days of workouts necessarily per week, though. Like steps can sometimes feel like a workout wise, because it takes time to do, but like that really helped to lay the foundation for a successful fat loss phase, going forward. And I feel like you can let me know your thoughts on this. I feel like that probably helped you to feel like that shift into a fat loss phase was probably much easier than what it would have been if, like, on week 1 or week 2, I was like, hey, we're going to start a fat loss phase. And now, we're going kind of full throttle, and now we have to be perfect and nail all of our targets. It was hopefully like a good transition period to that.
Yes, definitely. That definitely helped, kind of like ramping up and then slowly ramping back down, or jumping into that fat loss phase. Kind of helps kind of reset the body and gives your body a little pickup to say, oh wait, let's not get too comfortable here. And so that was a nice way to transition into it. Yes. And then by then, I was starting to see the changes in me. The pictures show it and other people see it, but it takes always a little bit longer when you're looking in the mirror. So by the time we finally got there, I was starting to see it, and it was more motivating for myself just to be able to have that little muscle build first before jumping into a fat loss phase.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll make your fat loss phase more successful too, because if you build a little bit of muscle, it can help to regulate hunger a little bit better too. It also, like, if you build a little bit of muscle, it quote unquote speeds your metabolism up a little bit. Now, this isn't something that's like extreme. Like, you're not going to burn hundreds of extra calories a day gaining a couple of pounds of muscle, but it is a little bit, and every little bit kind of helps too. And it also helps to reset your just overall, like, quote unquote symptoms of diet fatigue, which is like a term that, is kind of thrown out a little bit, where diet fatigue is basically when you've been eating low amounts of calories for a long period of time, your body starts to feel extra hunger, extra cravings. It feels more sluggish, more fatigued. Those symptoms just gradually build over time the lower your calories are and the longer you've been eating that lower calorie mark. So if we were to have started like a fat loss phase from the get-go, you would have been started from a point where you're kind of already experiencing a lot of diet fatigue symptoms. So you probably would have crashed and burned mentally and physically a lot sooner in that fat loss phase. But by doing that priming phase first, building your calories up, we're able to kind of reset and wash away those diet fatigue symptoms. So then when we go into a fat loss phase, like mentally, our energy is high, physically, our energy is high. We have a little bit extra built muscle too, which is going to like make your body look and feel better as you lose the body fat, but also give us a slight boost and, our calorie burn per day. So many like benefits of that. And, it's what a lot of people miss when they just decide, okay, I'm just going to go from all of these poor habits and now all of a sudden just like slashing calories from the get-go.
Yeah.
So we went through, a few fat loss phases up to this point. Well, when we started that first fat loss phase, was there anything like surprising with the first fat loss phase that you experienced with just like how it was set up or the approach that we took that was maybe different than, what you've tried in the past when you've gone through your own kind of fat loss phases, quote unquote, or tried to lose weight?
I think the most surprising thing was that it was still significantly more calories than I was expecting. So that was really nice. And I was surprised too that going into the fat loss phase that I never did feel hungry or like I was missing out on anything. I have a standing dinner date with my family on Wednesdays. And so I haven't had to change any of that. So we always pick a restaurant. We all go out to dinner together. And, being afraid that if you're in too restrictive of a calorie place, you're not going to get to do that kind of stuff, but I can still do all of that. But I think the biggest part was just the fact that the biggest surprise was it was more calories than I was expecting.
Hmm. Yeah. And those maintenance days that we have throughout the week, I'm sure really help too for those flexible days where you did want to have like a meal out. You were able to plan ahead and put it on the maintenance day. So, like, obviously, you can't just go with the flow with the fat loss day. There is some pre planning, but a lot of people overestimate just how restrictive they have to be with their calories too, or their food intake in general to see
Oh,
really consistent fat loss. What other things maybe surprised you about the fat loss phase of just like how it felt, or like things that surprised you of how you were feeling maybe during it, or was it all kind of what you expected, or kind of tell me a little bit more about that too?
yeah. Oh, it was surprising at how quickly the pounds came off, even with the calories being higher than I expected. So it started to make my clothes feel much different and faster than I expected. But that was surprising. That was nice. And again, just I wasn't tired. I still, it's funny because you would never have known this about me a year ago, but you would say, I got mad at my husband last week because we were supposed to go walking after work and then he changed plans last minute and we weren't going to be able to get the steps in. And I got really angry and I was like, yeah, no, we can't do that. We're going to have to go back to plan A because that's what I have. That's how I have my time scheduled. And now, doing all this, like I miss it if I don't do it. But going back to the fat loss stuff is just when you get into that and you start to see it in yourself, see it in the mirror, and then people from around you start to mention things. It was just surprising to how quickly people noticed there was a difference, which also, helps the way you feel, makes you feel better and it makes you want to keep going.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that you were like upset that you weren't able to get your walk in that day when you were just talking about like you felt like you were worried about succeeding because you feel like you're lazy and don't feel like doing that kind of stuff. But it's just like when you realize just how good your body can feel when you are treating it this way and, walking a certain amount of steps, eating the right kind of food, the right amount of food for your body too, and, strength training a few times per week, you do like start to gravitate towards doing those things, not just because of like the visual result of how my body looks. Like probably 99% of the time when a client signs on or gets started, it's because they want to look better. Like that's probably the biggest piece of the pie. Like sure, there are other pieces health wise, they want to feel better, but probably the biggest piece, if people like truly admitted it, is just I want to look a certain way and feel confident in my own skin. But as time goes on, and you learn to do these things, get your steps in, hit your workouts, track your food, and, eat mostly whole, minimally processed foods, not just because of the external, visual results, but because how it's going to make you feel mentally and physically, internally, that goes such a long way because now you're not relying on that external result to actually feed in the behavior that you actually want to do. You can immediately get rewarded of, I went on this walk and man, it feels great physically and mentally to be on this walk in the moment or, 10 minutes after your walk, oh, that was really, a nice de-stressor, after my long day to do that. But if you're only relying on the physical external result, like that's just, it takes longer, to see that physical external result.
Mhm.
So you don't get that positive reinforcement immediately.
Yeah. And during my first fat loss phase, I had my annual checkup with my primary care doctor, and she was ecstatic. My lab work came back so much better. My cholesterol, even though my cholesterol, luckily, has always been pretty good, was even better. My blood pressure was down, and this was just my very first fat loss phase, and just in the beginning of it. And when I saw her, and that was really exciting to be able to go to the doctor and not feel like I had to hide something because, obviously the tests are going to show what they're going to show, but I was able to go in there and proudly say, this is what I'm doing. And she was so excited.
Hmm. Yeah, that's always so cool when people share, their doctor visit updates, and because I'm sure that also feels really empowering too. Walking into the doctor's office, just knowing, okay, I'm likely going to get like a quote unquote good report or good
Yeah.
feedback or, whatever it may be versus being told all these things that, hey, you need to work on this and work on that. So that's really cool too. And then also as well, I wanted to touch on a little bit quickly your your husband's experience too over this time frame because I know, we had talked about the changes he's seen in his body weight or body composition too. So tell us like a little bit about like what he's seen and what he's kind of done in conjunction with what you've done too.
It took a little while to get him motivated to start, but he also had to get his knee fixed. He managed to tear his patella when we were in Portugal, so he didn't get to do or meniscus or something. I can't remember what he tore, but he tore something in his knee. He messed it up, so he had to have some of his meniscus removed out of his knee. But once he got that, it got fixed, and he started in November of last year. And so obviously diet wise, because I do all the cooking at home, diet wise, he was already on board there. And so he was already starting to eat better, not eating as often or as much. And we weren't going out to eat as often. So that was better. But then he finally decided to start joining in the gym. And that was back in November. And has dramatically changed. He's lost 40 pounds since he started this journey back in November. He's got muscles in his arms. He's starting to see pecs and abs, and he's super excited. But he also feels much better. He encourages me now, and what if one of us is feeling kind of extra lazy on a day? He's like, "Come on, it's time to go." We just constantly keep each other motivated to go. But he's doing great. He loves it. You gave him some pointing, some advice on kind of what weights to do and everything. So he's doing it on his own in a way. But with me, there is a background and us encouraging each other and obviously eating the food that I cook for him.
Yeah, which is so amazing. And by the way, like for anybody listening, if you didn't catch it, like he's not one of my clients. Like I'm not coaching him. He's just doing like the workouts that you're doing, going on walks with you, eating, roughly the same meals it sounds like that you're, making for yourself and probably like slightly different portion sizes and, different things here and there. But he's kind of following your lead, I guess, a little bit there. And, he's lost so much weight and has gotten in even better shape himself. And I think a big barrier to coaching sometimes is like, women thinking that it's selfish to spend this money on themselves, especially like when, they talk with their spouse or their partner and they might not be as much on board. And it just really does change your perspective so much when one, you have a very supportive, like, partner or spouse like you have. Like, I mean, he's been, like you said, like when you're feeling like you don't want to do something, he's like, all right, let's do it. He's supportive in that way, which is incredible to see. But also, just like when you realize, okay, this decision to invest in myself and do this, it's not just going to benefit me. Like I'm going to be able to lead by example for, other people, whether it's like your kids that you have or, maybe your husband who like he kind of maybe needs to lose weight too, or at least eat healthier or whatever it may be, or live a healthier lifestyle. And maybe he's not doing it. Like you taking the lead is going to like rub off on him. And a lot of times too, like depending on the mindset of, your husband or spouse, partner, if they see you taking care of yourself, they're going to be like, okay, well, like, Laura's doing this. I need to step it up too, because like, if she's going to be healthy, like I want to be just as healthy as well. So like, what would you say to somebody too, who like feels guilty about maybe starting coaching for themselves, whether it's like the financial investment or even like the time investment that they're maybe going to have to spend of like working out for themselves or going on walks for themselves?
Yeah, that one's so hard. I completely get it. So, as a mom, I always tried my best to lead by example because, I don't feel like people should just preach to their kids. I feel like you should actually be what you were telling your kids you should be. And even though my kids are grown, the fact that they see that we're doing this stuff even encourages them to this day. So yes, it's hard. And it's, especially if you have younger kids when, they require a lot more time, or if you have sports and all that kind of stuff that fortunately right now I don't have, that's a lot of time. But to be able just to carve out that little bit of time for you makes you more mentally prepared for what you have to deal with when your kids have their own problems and you also need to take care of. Because if you're mentally healthy, then a lot of that does, all of this working out, the eating better, the working out, it's not just about the physical. It's like you said, 99% of us start that because of that's what we want, but eventually, mentally, it makes us feel better. And if we're more mentally sharp for ourselves, and we could be more mentally sharp for our families. And they learn from us. They learn by what we're doing. And if they see that we're not doing 100% for ourselves, and they're probably not going to do 100% for themselves, especially as they get older. And they'll just, they tend to do the minimum because that's what they've seen their whole lives. So, my son came to visit, and yes, my son's 30 years old, but, he went to the gym with me while he was here, and he was just so impressed. He made sure that when he got back home that he kept on with his own exercise because he loves to run. And so he started, he continued his running and got more back into it than because he had taken a break from it for a while because life is busy. And again, just so easy to fall back into these easy habits. But your kids learn and they watch, and your family learns and watches. And, I would hope everyone in your life is supportive. I know that doesn't happen. There's a lot of people who don't have that type of support, and it's unfortunate. But you can't be there for others if you're not there for yourself.
Absolutely. So many really good things in there that you said. And obviously the biggest one being leading by example, because and this goes for other things too. Like if you want your kid to grow up a certain way with certain character traits, even if it's not physical, you have to be able to display those character traits and model those. You can't just tell them, hey, be patient when you're not patient yourself. You can't tell them to react to things in a calm manner when you're screaming your head off every time, something goes wrong. Like it's not going to work.
Yes.
So, and I think one of the biggest things that people probably want for their kids, at least I know me, is I want them to be happy and healthy for as long as possible. And if you aren't doing that for yourself, you're modeling the opposite of what you want for them. So, I love that. And, same thing with your spouse too. Like, I think it's pretty stereotypical for like, the husband to not like care about his health as much. And maybe he's, overweight and gets, like news at the doctor of, or hasn't been to the doctors in like 20 years. And he finally goes and like his blood pressure is high and his cholesterol is high. And he's like, oh, it'll be fine. And then he just moves on with his day and stuff. And like, if you care about your husband, which I'm sure if you're married to him, you probably do, you want him to correct those things and fix those things. But it's hard for him to buy into you encouraging him to do that stuff if maybe you're not living that lifestyle either. If you aren't working out, exercising, pay attention to your nutrition, whatever it may be for you, if you're not living that lifestyle and you tell him to do something, well, now he can point fingers at you and be like, well, you don't work out, you don't do all this stuff. But if you are doing them, it puts some pressure on him to take care of himself more too. And people say that like men have really big egos, and probably a lot of them do. And it's like, if one thing, it's like if you're working out, exercising, getting better shape, ego wise, it might drive him to, take care of himself more too. But so many really, really good points, you made in there, Laura. And, I really think if somebody who's struggling on doing something like this, who would really benefit, I hope they don't let like just the guilt get in the way of it. And because like you might be spending less time, quote unquote, with your kids, but maybe that time is just spent you just sitting on the couch, you're scrolling on your phone anyway, you're not even really present, you're not really spending that time modeling any good behaviors for them. Like, and you spending, that 30 to 45 minutes, in the other room working out, maybe even, working out with them, get some toy weights for them, some, styrofoam ones, and, include them in the process too. And yeah, and make sure workout like take longer. You might be more interrupted, but you just got to share that experience with them and just teach them, how to take care of their body too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just, and when it comes to the financial aspect, because I was on the GLP-1, I use that money to do this. But if there's always ways. Well, not always. Yes, there are certain people in financial situations that probably cannot afford it, and I completely understand that. I've lived that life, but later on, going out to dinner, like 2 meals going out to dinner would more than easily pay for this program for a month, especially nowadays. So just trying to wrap your head around where is it that your money is going sometimes, and like, what is it that's more important? Is it more important to go spend a couple $100 over here? Is it more worth it to go spend a couple $100 over here and make yourself healthier and better? So I think too, financially, there's always a way. If that's the big guilt, then I feel like there's always something that can be done. Again,
Yeah, for sure. And I tell people this all the time. Like, I would never want somebody to not be able to pay for their electric bill or, their groceries to do coaching. Like, if someone's in
Yeah.
that position, I'm gonna say, don't do coaching. Like, don't sign up for this. But like you said, most of the time, 95% of the time, like somebody could actually find a way and find the resources to do it if they really believe that they could stay consistent with it and believed in the process and got resourceful in doing so. Because like you said, you can look at what you're spending your money on, and there probably are areas you're spending your money on that are like random things you're buying that you probably don't need to buy, that maybe you're buying to make you happy, to fill this happiness void where like maybe that happiness void is there because you're uncomfortable in your own skin, hate the way you look, and you're not lifting weights, you're not getting your walks in, so you're not getting that boost in mental health from those things. And it's like you might not need to buy like something new from Target or Amazon every week to like get that dopamine hit, because you're getting that dopamine hit from all these actual like healthy behaviors that you're doing. But also to the going out to dinner thing, like like you said, I think one or two dinners per week like easily pays for coaching monthly. And like those are things that also, when you cut out eating out so much, they not only help you financially to be able to do this, but they also help your progress too of
There,
not eating
there's
out as often too. So they kind of, you get two positive benefits from it. So it's just, I think people, just going back to what we talked about before, they don't believe that they can actually stick with it. But I think it's also because they have this preconceived notion of how restrictive it's going to be or how hard it's going to be from these previous crash diets they've done. Like they think, can I actually stick to eating 1,200 or 1,000 calories a day? No, then I don't want to pay for this program, because then if I know I'm not going to stick to that, then I'm not going to see progress and then I'm wasting money on this. But you don't have to eat that low of calories or do something so extreme. Like, you're lifting weights 3 times a week. You specifically, some clients are doing 2, some clients are maybe doing 4, but on average, most are doing 3. You're doing 3. You're getting roughly 10,000 steps per day in your fat loss phase, eating the right amount of calories, which is, that's kind of like where the magic happens, eating the right amount of that in the protein. But like, that's kind of it. And it's nothing to where like you have to, eat only these Optavia meals that are like prepackaged in protein bars, for the rest of your life in order to do so. And the benefit too of the GLP-1, like I said, I'm not against those if it, like the situation requires it or, it helps, but you're paying for coaching to be able to learn how to also keep it off like for the rest of your life without, like, you're not going to have to rely on coaching forever probably. And with the GLP-1s, like a lot of people, when they start taking them, they probably do need to take some small dose forever if they don't actually change those habits, along the way.
Mm.
So what would you, and as we're kind of getting close to an hour here, what would you tell somebody who like is maybe on the fence about, well, actually, no, let's, I want to ask you this one question before we do that one. I know we talked about like the 18-pound, weight loss, the improvement in, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, all of that. What other like wins did you, experience along the way, whether that be like physical or maybe like internal wins or moments that you had that really like made you feel like, wow, like, I'm really doing this, especially the right way that's going to, stay off long term.
There's so many little pieces that kind of add up. So the physical ones are the easy ones. I saw my older sister for the first time in a few months, and I waved to her from across the room. And the first thing she said to me is that I don't have the extra wave. I was like, wait a minute, really? I don't? So that was really cool. Yeah. And that's a huge one for all women. Just, again, the energy, the amount of energy that I have now back Facebook, unlike I did, a year or 2 years ago, even before I started the GLP-1s, which made me extra tired. Like, I just have energy. I want to go out and do stuff. I don't mind going outside and I live in Florida. It's very, very muggy. Just as hot. It's actually hotter in Ohio. It's just muggier here. But just wanting to go out and do things and not just be sitting on my couch all the time anymore. That's kind of the big one. I really now want to do things, regardless of what they are. It could be going to play indoor golf or going to the golfing range or kayaking or just walking to and from the water, which is about a mile away from my house, which I would have never done in the middle of summer before. But just it's just a general energy, and I feel good. I just I have more confidence, want to go out and buy clothes for myself, which I never wanted to do before. And it's just it's hard to explain though. Overall, just I just feel good. Like I
Hmm.
don't feel sluggish. I don't feel blah. I don't mind looking in the mirror when I walk by it.
Yeah. So not only obviously like the weight loss, the changes physically you've seen, but and not only too, gaining life as long as or as far as probably putting years onto your life because you're taking care of yourself and staying healthy too, but also even the years you have now and the moments you have now, you're able to just really soak in as much as you want to out of that because you have the energy to do so versus feeling so fatigued of, oh, I can't do this activity today or that, I'll do that later or whatever it may be because you're not fueling yourself the right way. So it's like enriching every moment of your life and because you do feel good now along the way too. So what
I
would you say?
real
Were
quick
you going to say something?
with what you just said. So I
Yeah.
forgot. So we have this thing at work, and you take a test once a year, and it tells you your health age on this test at work. And last year I got my exact age. So I got 52 as my health age, and this year I got 47 instead of 53. So yeah, my health age has gotten better on my little app here at work. That
Wow. That's
was really
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. So what do they take into account with that? Is it like do they take like your blood lipids and blood pressure into account with that and lifestyle and
Yeah. How many days a week you get more than 30 minutes worth of active movement in, your labs, your blood pressures, amount of sleep you're getting in. And it does ask mental health questions as well about, how you're feeling in general and about depression and all that kind of stuff. So it was about 40 questions that it asked. And we take one every year. And this was the first time it's ever been lower than my actual age.
yeah, that's amazing. And it's like it's funny because time is that one thing that, the saying time is the one thing you can never get back or buy back, but you kind of I mean, with that test, at
Yeah.
least, obviously, like you've kind of bought back time, bought back
Yes.
what, 6 years of your life
Mhm.
by doing so. And I think like when, because we're all gonna die at
Yeah.
some point, and once we get to that point, I think the thing people would wish for is probably just more time. And, going back to our conversation about like the financial investment and doing this, like, this is your cheat code to actually being able to get more years out of your life and even, in this scenario, like almost reverse time by by reversing your age, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and it's just incredible, what happens when you take care of yourself and you do things the right way. So what would you say just like closing remarks to somebody who's, on the fence about maybe doing coaching or this experience?
Yeah, obviously the easiest thing to say is like, just do it. You will not
Uh,
regret it. So worth it. It is scary. And sometimes, you don't have the motivation to get yourself up and moving, but then you get up and you do it anyway, and you feel so much better afterwards. And then after a while, it just becomes a part of you. And if you don't do it, then you start to miss it. But it really does make you feel better. And you just mentally, physically, I mean, all of it, you feel better. And it's so worth your time and the money and all of it. And I'm so grateful for you because I know I couldn't have done this without you. So I super appreciate all that you did for me and all your support and love the recipes and the community. Not only do I have you, but then I have all the other women who are a part of this community sharing their experiences and knowing that you don't have to be perfect. We're all going to have our downfalls. Obviously, I just had my own little spurt not too long ago. This past July, I feel like I hit a slump and I needed this recharge. So we decided to do a recharge, and I feel much better today than I did 3 weeks ago, even though I'm on an upswing on calories. I feel like my scale's coming back down, but I feel like my body just needed this. Like, hey, come back. We're floating away here. And just being able to talk to someone and have that ability to work the schedule out. And it's not so black and white. It doesn't have to be exactly one way or no way. And to have that flexibility just makes such a huge difference in making everyone successful.
yeah. No, I love all that. And we didn't even dive into like that aspect of just like, the importance of having somebody to talk to and change the game plan if it needs to be changed based on how you're feeling and how things are going. Love everything about, what you just said too. And, couldn't really have said it any better myself, to be honest. So it's been obviously great working with you to this point, and I'm excited to
Yeah,
just keep going and see
absolutely.
what, more progress we're going to make. So, if you're watching this and I'm sure, Laura's perfectly fine, with you messaging her, for other
Absolutely.
feedback if you want an inside scoop of what coaching has been like too, other than, listening to this. But yeah, just be on the lookout for, maybe even, months from now, we'll be on this video call again talking about,
Ooh,
how much more progress you made too. So, but we'll wrap this up here and, we will see you guys in the next one.
bye.